fitnessgolfguru.com. I'm here today in the Fitness Guru training studio because in sunny Southern California today it's raining, and I have a tip about stance and ball position today. In my April newsletter that's online this month, I talk about the 5 fundamentals of your setup before your golf swing. That includes your grip, your stance, your posture, your alignment, and the ball position. So posture, ball position, and stance are closely related and go together. So I have a little demonstration that will help you determine how wide your stance should be for each of your different clubs, at least the different categories of clubs. And then also you'll be able to figure out the ball position for each of those. Okay, I've had to adjust the camera now so you'll be able to see a little bit better on the floor. What I have here are alignment sticks. You can buy these at golf stores. Some pro shops have them. They're inexpensive little fiberglass rods that you can use to practice at the range, figuring out your alignment or your toe line or whatever it is you need to work on. Alright, so what I have here is I've got my alignment rods set up. I've got my toe line and my target line, which is what this front one represents, and this one represents the position that you're going to use with your driver. It's also going to be the guide for your left foot, or your front foot if you're a left-handed golfer. So we're going to, when we use it for a foot guide, we're going to put our heel right there next to it. When you take a golf stance, your lead foot should be open about 30 degrees. So I'm not going to be straight here parallel with it. I'm going to open that up and grab my driver. Well, we talked about this. So I'm going to get my heel lined up here. Take my driver's stance, which is my widest stance that I use for my body in golf, and the proper posture, which would line me up with that ball. And here's where I would stand to hit a ball off a tee. About 30 degrees out here, a little bit less. And so you can see this line represents that first position. Now, as we use our shorter irons, then we're going to bring our foot position in. Our stance should narrow just a little bit, approximately 1 ball. So we're trying to think of the width. If I grabbed a hybrid, then I'm going to be looking at this ball. So I bring my right foot in just a little bit, and that puts me right just in the right place to hit this middle ball. In my golf posture, that's going to be way back here though. If I imagine that my tee is there, so I like to use another ball here to represent where this actually is lined up there. Next then is my short iron position. This happens to be my pitching wedge. Again, this is a much shorter club, so it's going to mean that the ball's going to be quite a bit closer to me. And I need a little bit narrower stance still, which makes this ball, the third ball there, right in the middle of this narrow stance, narrow iron stance. And as I take my golf posture, that puts me right here, right in the middle of my stance. So this is my 5-ball setup illustration. I happen to be using the 2 colors to show you what's going on there. And if you do this for yourself, you should put these 3 balls here and then figure out for your 3 categories of clubs where you'd like to have that. Let's show you with a when I had my mid iron with my mid stance, that put this ball right in the middle of my stance. You can see the orange rod coming through there. And then, when I have my shorter club, I'm going to use this instead this time. Lined up with that third ball. And my more narrow stance. Here. This silver shaft now, representing this ball, is right down the center of my stance. So, in summary, what are we looking at here? We're looking at our ball position relative to the width of our stance, which is determined by the club we have in our hand for what we need. So, if we have a driver, that's going to be our widest stance. And the ball for your driver needs to be right off your front heel, or for right-handed golfers, that's your left heel. So I've got this line set up to show that right off my left heel. Then when I take my golf stance, which is the wide one for my driver, I'm going to move up just slightly here, heel lined up here. Now I'm set up for hitting this ball from my driver's stance. Pretend that's on a tee. Alright. The next one here is showing the stance I need to use for a long iron or a hybrid. Long irons would be like 3 irons down to about 7, or any of the hybrids that you guys use. So I would take my stance in just a little bit more narrow. About a ball's width works for most people. And now I want to line up with that second ball, which will be just about in the middle of my new, more narrow stance. I put this yellow ball down here so you can see the distance difference between these clubs, the hybrid being much shorter than the driver. So in my stance for that, and in my golf posture, I'm lined up for that. The third ball represents the position for a short iron. This happens to be a pitching wedge. Again, I'm going to bring my foot in just a little bit more narrow. Take my golf posture. You see the silver rod, my club there represents that line, right in the center of my stance. Adjust that slightly. And that's the proper stance for